We is considered the progenitor of dystopian literature, but what story does it tell? This slim sci-fi novel, why could it predict the suffocation of totalitarian societies and the struggle of humanity? We, written by Yevgeny Zamyatin in 1920, is a dystopian classic that reveals the crushing of individual souls by totalitarianism through a chillingly logical world. This work not only inspired Orwell's 1984 but also serves as a mirror reflecting our eternal questions about freedom and control. Let's dive into Zamyatin's world to explore how D503 seeks his identity behind the Iron Curtain of totalitarianism and the warnings this novel offers for today's world. Background: Zamyatin and the foreshadowing of totalitarianism. Yevgeny Zamyatin, born in 1884 in Russia, lived through the turmoil of the Tsarist era's end and the October Revolution. As both an engineer and writer, his dual identity gave him sharp insight. We was written in 1920, just as the Soviet regime was forming, when Lenin's idealism had not yet fully morphed into Stalin's iron-fisted rule. Zamyatin witnessed the seeds of revolution turning from liberation to control, making his novel a prophecy of totalitarian societies. Declassified Soviet archives show that by the 1920s, the Bolshevik regime had begun monitoring dissenters through secret police. Zamyatin's friend, poet Osip Mandelstam, was exiled for a satirical poem foreshadowing the fate of intellectuals under totalitarianism. Zamyatin wrote in We are happy because we have no freedom. This paradoxical declaration reflects his fear of collectivism swallowing individuality. Unlike his Western contemporaries, Zamyatin's writing blends mathematical precision with literary rebellion. Having worked in shipyards, he understood technical logic, using it to frame a totalitarian utopia in We. His work was also shaped by the Industrial Revolution. In the late 19th century, Taylor's scientific management theory swept Europe and America, emphasizing efficiency and standardization, much like the timetable rule in We's one state. Zamyatin keenly saw that misused technology could become a tool of control. In comparison, Orwell's 1984, inspired by We, focuses on language and thought control, while Zamyatin highlights the alienation of humanity through mathematics and mechanization. This difference stems from Zamyatin's engineer perspective, using numbers and logic to expose totalitarianism's cold essence. Though banned in the Soviet Union, We gained widespread influence in the West, becoming a cornerstone of dystopian literature. Zamyatin's work also draws from Russian literary traditions. Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground explores the conflict between freedom and rationality, a theme Zamyatin amplifies in We on a societal level. He discussed ideas with Gorky in literary salons, encouraged yet marginalized for his critical works. In 1921, attempts to publish We were blocked by censorship, and the manuscript was smuggled abroad. This troubled publishing journey itself is a footnote to totalitarian oppression. Zamyatin's vision extended beyond the Soviet Union. Having visited England, he observed the mechanized tendencies of industrialized societies, deepening his thoughts on technology's dual nature. The one state in We is not just a metaphor for the Soviet Union but a warning about global modernization trends. In the early 20th century, Ford's assembly lines and Taylorism dominated, with efficiency as the supreme principle, reducing individuals to production units. Zamyatin's insight was foreseeing how this trend could form the basis of totalitarian societies. Plot: D503's awakening and struggle. The core of We revolves around D503, the chief engineer of the one state, tasked with designing the integral spacecraft, symbolizing humanity's ambition to conquer the cosmos. The one state is a transparent society of glass, where residents are named by numbers and lives are strictly regulated by a timetable. D503's diary is the narrative vehicle, recording his daily life in mathematical language, but his encounter with I-330 sparks a conflict between emotion and reason. D503's diary begins, "I only wish to record our happy, mathematically precise life." This blind loyalty reflects the brainwashing of totalitarian societies. But I330E's appearance disrupts his calm. A rebel, she introduces D503 to forbidden music, alcohol, and love, awakening his dormant soul. D503 begins to feel chaotic emotions, even dreaming of the irrational square root of -1, symbolizing his inner turmoil that defies mathematical explanation. A real historical parallel is Soviet physicist Andrei Sakharov, who, after witnessing the destructiveness of nuclear tests, shifted from a nuclear program insider to an anti-nuclear advocate. His transformation, driven by questioning totalitarian logic, mirrors D503E's journey from mechanical obedience to emotional awakening. Sakharov wrote in his memoirs, "I began to realize that science cannot override humanity." This mirrors D503E's struggle. D503E's inner conflict surfaces in his diary. He tries to explain love with mathematical formulas, writing, "I love I330, but it defies logic." This contradiction torments him as he notes, "My soul is an error that must be corrected." This reflects the totalitarian denial of individual emotions. I330 represents the spark of freedom, using secret gatherings and ancient music to awaken D503E's love for life. Yet, the one state's benefactor and guardians are omnipresent, monitoring any rebellion. Another real case is Soviet writer Boris Pasternak, suppressed for Dr. Zhivago yet persisting in his craft, echoing I330E's fight for freedom. Pasternak said, "Art is the last bastion of human freedom," aligning with I330E's beliefs. However, D503E's awakening is no triumph. He tries to join I330E's revolution but undergoes the Great Operation, stripping him of imagination, returning him to a loyal number. At the novel's end, he coldly watches I330E's execution, writing, "Everything is fine, order is restored." This tragic ending reveals totalitarianism's ruthless crushing of individuality, prompting reflection: can freedom always defeat control? D503E's story is not just a personal tragedy but a portrait of human complexity. He is both a victim and a maintainer of totalitarianism. His diary is rife with contradictions, worshipping the one state while longing for I330. This duality recalls Hannah Arendt's banality of evil theory: ordinary people can unwittingly become complicit in totalitarian systems. D503E's betrayal stems not from malice but from fear and habit, making his tragedy universal. Imagery and themes: numbers, glass, and collectivism as metaphors. Imagery in We is central to its intellectual depth. Zamyatin uses numbers, glass, and the green wall to craft a chilling yet thought-provoking world. Numbers are the one state's foundation, with residents like D503 and I330 named by codes, symbolizing the erasure of individuality. Zamyatin writes, "We are numbers, perfect geometric shapes." This reflects both mathematical rule and the standardization of humanity in totalitarian societies. In reality, the Soviet labor numbering system reduced workers to production units, akin to the one state's naming. Philosopher Adorno critiqued technical rationality for turning humans into tools, a concept Zamyatin illustrates through numbers. Numbers not only erase individuality but regulate life. The one state's timetable controls every minute, as D503 writes, "The timetable is the guarantee of our happiness." This extreme control of time echoes early 20th century Taylorism, which broke down workers' movements for efficiency. Zamyatin uses numbers to expose how efficiency worship strips away humanity. Glass architecture symbolizes transparency and surveillance. The one state's glass houses leave no room for privacy, as D503 writes, "Glass makes us selfless, for we have no secrets." This transparency, seemingly equal, is a tool of totalitarian surveillance. In 2018, the Cambridge Analytica scandal revealed how tech companies manipulate voters through data, showing transparency's potential for control. Glass also extends to the psychological level. D503E's struggles are magnified in the Glass Society, his diary becoming a tool of self-exposure. Zamyatin uses glass to explore the psychological oppression of lost privacy. Philosopher Foucault's panopticon theory aligns here. Surveillance shapes obedient minds, not just behaviors. The green wall symbolizes isolation and confinement, separating the one state from nature and the outside world, deemed chaotic. I330 leads D503 beyond the wall to see nature's vitality. This recalls the Berlin Wall, which divided East and West Germany and symbolized ideological conflict. Zamyatin critiques totalitarianism's stifling of free exploration through the wall. Collectivism is a core theme in We. The one state promotes equality and collective supremacy, but at the cost of individuality. D503 writes, personal happiness is secondary, the collective's happiness is the truth. This mirrors Soviet collectivist ideology. In contrast, Chinese culture's concept of harmony seeks a balance between individual and collective, not the erasure of the self. Zamyatin's critique prompts reflection: how can collectivism balance ideals and oppression? Another key theme is technology versus humanity. The one state's technology, like the integral spacecraft, symbolizes progress but serves control. I330's rebellion embodies human creativity. As Zamyatin writes, revolution is the essence of life, without end. This suggests that technology, detached from humanity, becomes a tool of oppression, while creativity is the hope for resistance. Zamyatin also explores the clash between irrationality and rationality, defining human nature. Ree's dream of the square root of -1 symbolizes irrational forces, akin to Nietzsche's Dionysian spirit. Nietzsche saw rationality and passion as dual drivers of human creativity, but the one state's attempt to eliminate passion leads to humanity's decay. Contemporary significance: deconstructing totalitarian logic. We is more than a novel. It's a profound deconstruction of totalitarian logic. Zamyatin's one state reveals totalitarianism's mechanisms. Standardization erases individuality, surveillance eliminates privacy, and technology enforces control. Standardization is a core totalitarian tool. The one state's timetable regulates life, much like Taylorist assembly lines. Historian Yuval Harari notes that standardization simplifies governance but stifles creativity. The Soviet 5-year plans enforced uniform production goals, stalling innovation, echoing Wee's warnings. Soviet standardization extended to culture. In the 1920s, socialist realism was mandated, forcing literature and art to serve state ideology. Zamyatin's banned novel and personal exile reflect this cultural suppression. Similarly, Nazi Germany's book burnings aimed to erase dissent through cultural uniformity, showing standardization's widespread harm. Surveillance is a pillar of totalitarianism. The one state's glass society leaves no escape, mirroring the Soviet secret police system. In the 1920s, the People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs monitored intellectuals, leading to Zamyatin's exile. Today, tech giants like Google track user behavior via algorithms, raising privacy concerns and showing surveillance's ubiquity. Surveillance extends beyond actions to the mind. The one state's guardians use psychological analysis to identify rebels, akin to Stalin's thought crimes. D503's diary, obtained by guardians, becomes evidence of his betrayal. This psychological surveillance recalls Kafka's The Trial, where individuals are oppressed for vague crimes, highlighting totalitarianism's mental invasion. Technology in We is both liberator and oppressor. D503's integral spacecraft symbolizes progress but serves totalitarian expansion. In reality, AI's rapid growth raises ethical concerns. In 2023, OpenAI's ChatGPT faced EU scrutiny for potential biases, underscoring technology's risks of abuse. Zamyatin's insight lies in revealing not just totalitarianism but human complexity. 503's betrayal stems from fear and habit, not malice. This echoes Milgram's obedience experiments, where ordinary people comply with authority against their conscience. Zamyatin warns that totalitarianism thrives on external oppression and internal compliance. Totalitarian logic also manipulates history. The one state claims history has ended, erasing the past. B503 writes, "We are the perfect endpoint." This recalls Soviet rewriting of history, like erasing Trotsky's records under Stalin. Modern internet censorship and information filtering similarly limit access to truth. Zamyatin's prophecy also highlights psychological mechanisms. D503's diary shows how fear drives self-censorship. Psychologist Ash's conformity experiments reveal how individuals abandon judgment under group pressure. D503's compliance is a literary expression of this, urging us to beware conformity's traps. Modern lessons, the eternal battle of freedom and control. These relevance transcends the 1920s, remaining a mirror for reflecting on freedom and control. Zamyatin's story shows that totalitarianism isn't a distant nightmare, but a latent possibility in technology and society. Take the fictional Soviet mathematician Irina Solovyova, who in the 1960s was confined for questioning state data falsification yet expressed resistance through underground poetry. Her story echoes D503's struggle. How does an individual hold on to the self under collective pressure? Irina's choice reminds us that freedom requires courage and action. She wrote, "Numbers cannot define my soul," echoing I330's rebellious spirit. In today's world, technology's double-edged nature is increasingly clear. Zamyatin's glass society seems reborn in reality. In 2021, Edward Snowden's PRISM leaks exposed U.S. government surveillance via tech companies, validating WE's warnings about transparency's dangers. Philosopher Isaiah Berlin distinguished between positive freedom, self-realization, and negative freedom, freedom from chaos. In We, I330 seeks positive freedom, while the one state offers only the false safety of negative freedom. Zamyatin urges us to reject the latter and embrace the former. Consider Polish journalist Anna Politkovskaya assassinated for exposing Chechen war truths, yet her words awakened countless consciences. Her courage, like I330's, proves the power of individual resistance. Politkovskaya said, "Silence is complicity," aligning with Zamyatin's call to resist through expression. We also prompts reflection on technology's role. The one state's great operation eliminates imagination, akin to modern algorithmic biases. In 2022, Facebook faced criticism for algorithms promoting extremist content, potentially deepening social divides. Zamyatin reminds us that technology must serve humanity, not the reverse. The novel's ending is thought-provoking. D503's failure isn't the end but a warning for the future. Zamyatin writes, "As long as there are people, revolution is possible." This prompts us to ask, how do we protect inner freedom under the dual pressures of technology and power? Guarding freedom starts with daily acts. Hong Kong writer Lin Yi Han, through her novel Fang Zikai's First Love Paradise, exposed social oppression, sparking widespread gender discussions despite her personal cost. Her story shows that individual expression can ignite change. We also highlights education's role. The one state uses education to instill obedience, while I330's rebellion stems from independent knowledge pursuit. Finland's education system, emphasizing critical thinking, fosters independent judgment and offers a model to emulate. Zamyatin's story reminds us that education should empower questioning, not blind compliance. Finally, We offers lessons for the modern workplace. The one state's timetable resembles corporate KPI assessments, prioritizing efficiency over humanity. In 2024, Google employees struck over excessive surveillance, reflecting a desire for workplace freedom. Zamyatin's story inspires us to seek meaning in work, not become mere numbers. Character ensemble, from D503 to I330's collective narrative. His charm lies not only in D503's story but in its ensemble of characters. I330-090 and R13 together paint a social portrait of the one state, showing diverse choices and fates under totalitarianism. I330 is the symbol of resistance, awakening D503 and organizing a secret revolution to overthrow the one state. Her image recalls Soviet underground poet Anna Akhmatova, who persisted in writing under Stalin's oppression, her poems a symbol of defiance. Akhmatova wrote, "My poetry is the breath of freedom, mirroring I330's use of music and love to awaken humanity." 090 embodies maternal warmth and humanity, defying the one state's reproductive rules to protect her child's freedom. Her choice recalls Edith Lieberman from Schindler's List, who risked her life to save children in Nazi camps, showing humanity's light in despair. 090's motherhood directly challenges totalitarianism's cold logic. 13, the one state's poet, joins the revolution under I330's influence. His conflicted nature, both a product of and rebel against the system, mirrors D503. Soviet writer Ivan Bunin, who wrote within the system but chose exile due to inner conflict, reflects R13's path. R13's fate reminds us that artists' sensitivity often sparks rebellion. These characters form a microcosm of the one-state society. Their choices, obedience, rebellion, or compromise, reflect humanity's diversity under totalitarianism. Zamyatin's ensemble prompts us to ask, would we be D503, I330, or 090? The psychological depth of the characters is a highlight. 503's diary brims with the clash of mathematics and emotion, as he writes, "I tried to calculate her smile with a formula, but found no solution." This nuanced portrayal recalls Proust's In Search of Lost Time, using stream of consciousness to capture complexity. Though less intricate than Proust, Zamyatin's concise language vividly conveys human struggle, cultural comparison, freedom in Eastern and Western perspectives. His intellectual depth lies in its implicit dialogue between Eastern and Western cultures. The one state blends Western rationalism with Soviet collectivism, but its exploration of freedom resonates with Chinese philosophy. In Chinese tradition, freedom aligns with the Tao. Laozi's Wu-Yi non-action emphasizes harmony with nature, contrasting the one state's forced control. I330's rebellion echoes Huangzi's carefree wandering, seeking spiritual freedom. Though Zamyatin doesn't directly reference Eastern philosophy, his irrational resistance aligns with Taoist thought. Western views of freedom emphasize individual rights. Locke's natural rights align with I330's pursuit, but the one state's collectivism recalls Hobbes' Leviathan, where individuals surrender freedom for order. Zamyatin critiques this trade-off through the one state. Cultural differences also appear in views of nature. The one state's green wall isolates nature, reflecting Western rationalism's conquest mindset. Chinese harmony with nature contrasts this, advocating coexistence. I330's crossing of the wall recalls Tao Yuanming's return to the fields, symbolizing a return to nature. This East-West dialogue underscores Wu's universal value. Zamyatin's story critiques Soviet totalitarianism while questioning humanity's plight in global modernization. In 2023, a Human Rights Report noted global privacy erosion by technology, echoing Zamyatin's warnings. This cross-cultural resonance makes Wu a timeless classic. Conclusion: humanity's awakening and future choices. Wu uses cold mathematical logic to tell a passionate story of human awakening. Through D503's diary, Zamyatin reveals how totalitarianism uses standardization, surveillance, and technology to suppress individuality, yet ignites sparks of resistance. From Soviet collectivism to modern tech surveillance, this novel's warnings remain relevant. Today, as we face algorithmic recommendations, data tracking, and social pressures, are we too becoming numbers? Zamyatin tells us that awakening begins with questioning, and freedom stems from action. Whether it's D503's struggle or I330's sacrifice, they ask, how much are you willing to pay for freedom? Let we inspire us to nurture our inner I330 and embrace our own revolution.